Chapter 21. I Stayed to be Investigated. There wasn't much to say about the Thursday Duck Camp because it was merely a transit station. When Tuan and I stayed behind for interrogation, they transferred us to Zone B of the camp, except for Zone A, which had 4 cells sharing a large courtyard. The other buildings in the camp were separated by walls. This meant that inmates in different areas couldn't see each other, except during meals when they collected their food from the kitchen. But even then, there was always an officer or a model prisoner accompanying them. There were many types of inmates at the Thursday Duck Camp, such as criminals, people the VC referred to as reactionary organizations, those who had risen up against the communists after April 30th, 1975, people caught organizing or attempting to escape by boat, millionaire business people arrested during the VC's campaign to reform the capitalist economy, and former officials of the old regime. Each group was held in different zones. Zone A was reserved for temporary inmates awaiting transfer. Zone B housed former government employees and wealthy individuals. Zone C was for criminals, members of anti-communist organizations, and boat people. Unlike at Long Ton Camp, I couldn't estimate how many inmates were at Thursday Duck because they were constantly being moved in and out, and we rarely saw one another. Zone B consisted of only one row of buildings with 2 cells and a courtyard in front surrounded by walls. When we arrived, there were already about 100 other inmates there. They had been transferred from Long Ton and had not yet been sent to the north. I was surprised to see some familiar faces, such as Mr. Tsang, the former chief of intelligence, Trang, head of Section A8, Luong, head of Section A10, Veep and New, chief judges of Supreme Court of Saigon. In Cell 1, most of the inmates were former South Vietnamese government employees and a few millionaires, such as pharmacist La Tan Ne and Hong Kim Ka, the barbed wire king. Cell 2 housed former members of the South Vietnamese police and intelligence agencies. We didn't have to do anything while in Zone B, and for reasons unknown to me, the camp management seemed more lenient than ever. They didn't lock our cells until 6 p.m. each day and allowed us to move around the courtyard, cook, and exercise. The interrogation process lasted nearly 2 months. Initially, I had to report daily for questioning and then return my cell to rewrite my statements repeatedly. Later, they summoned me less frequently until eventually they stopped altogether, likely having completed their inquiries. What they wanted was everything I knew about the Third Force, the people I had monitored from 1970 to 1972 before joining Section A17. Some members of this group were now working for the VC, such as Mrs. No Ba Tan, who was currently a member of the VC's National Assembly. They were also the ones who had caused chaos on the home front, giving the VC opportunities to take over South Vietnam. I despised them because they played both sides for their own benefit. I thought my knowledge of the Third Force was minimal since, at the time, I had only monitored them as a journalist for the Saigon Post. What I observed was merely surface-level information. Mrs. No Ba Tan, for instance, was a law graduate from Sorbonne University in France. Her husband, Dr. No Ba Tan, was a veterinary professor at Saigon's University of Agriculture and Forestry. Lawyer Tran Ngoc Liang had once served as Minister of Defense during the First Republic. General Duong Van Minh, chairman of the Council of Generals of the South Vietnamese Armed Forces, had overthrown President Ngo Dinh Diem of the First Republic. These individuals, who once held high positions in South Vietnam, opposed President Nguyen Van Thieu. For reasons I didn't fully understand, they allied with the Nquang Buddhist clergy to form the so-called Third Force. This group, claiming to be neutral, only opposed the South Vietnamese government and never the VC. Everything I wrote for the VC was information they already knew because they had infiltrated the Third Force. The third force had recently helped the VC conquer South Vietnam, so I didn't understand why the VC interrogated me about them. Did they suspect something? Or were they looking for evidence to oust these individuals? The VC always eliminated those who weren't part of their inner circle. I thought it was foolish for these individuals to expect positions within the communist regime without joining the Communist Party. Even if they did join, they would only hold minor roles, far from prestigious positions they had in South Vietnam's government. The VC merely used these people temporarily to gain public support, and now it seemed like they were preparing to discard them. During this time, there were 2 more rounds of inmate transfers, but Tuan and I remained at Thursday Duk for further investigation. 2 months later, we were moved to Zone D, leaving Zone B for newly arriving and departing inmates.